All right, let's check it out. Make sure that I'm actually broadcasting myself properly. Oh, not Twitch, but not Twitter, but Twitch. Got check in. See. Oh, I should have had Fnatic moderate. Me and him will connect on. All right, I said, want to debate someone about if voting could have prevented the death of Roe. A lot of y'all are tweeting big shit right now. Let's see who can cash it in. All right, that was that was the tweet right there. I've done no preparation, and I see the homie, the Mayhem Calling, Trey. Let me add you in real quick, and let me stop the boom.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, it's coming in, sounding great, by the way.
Awesome. So, sweet. Are we cool? Are we live and everything?
Yeah, we're live. I'm on Twitch right now. Streaming on the Bars and Joysticks Twitch channel right now. For political content, I'll probably upload this to the Tajy Politics YouTube channel when that kicks off, because right now it's still in wraps. But right now it's streaming on the Bars and Joysticks channel. Yeah. Are you streaming as well? Did you get a haircut?
No, I got my hair in a tail right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'm not streaming. I was gonna record it, but my recording software is acting funky.
So. Oh, really? I know how that can go. Yeah. Your audio should be it sounds great to me. We can check on Twitch right now if you want, before we get in.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and if you say it sounds good, then I'm sure everyone else can hear me. So I'm gonna go ahead and just promote this with the Twitterverse and all that.
It is booming, fam.
And I will be on right now. Excellent. And then one more, just get the link so I can get this on Facebook as well.
Excellent.
All right, so
I'm going to Bars and Joysticks Twitter channel and not Twitter channel. Yeah, actually, let me log in on Bars and Joysticks. So, actually, oh.
Get it in all of our groups.
We are live. Happy Friday. Oh, excellent. Yes, on Facebook and things like that too.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Oh, excellent.
Right.
All right. We'll kick things off real soon. Just trying to load a few things up. All right. Go on Facebook too. Let's see what the links I could share. Yeah, thanks for Whoop, there it goes.
All right. Cool. I did all the fun stuff.
Excellent. And well, if you shared it on the Facebook groups, I'm sure we're in the same groups. So, Discord. One second. Almost done.
Shit! Yeah, I got to do it on Discord too.
Yeah. I'm a big StreamYard guy because I feel like it gives me the power to use Discord, as well if I had any big issues. I've ran into issues doing dual wielding before.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. cool. I posted it in my private group. It's not really private. It's anyone can join, but it feels private because there's only one active person besides me.
I feel that. I feel that. I was gonna make a whatchamacallit, like my the channel Discord, but we just never did. And I'm not like too upset about it. I'm like whatever. Where's
I
the
feel like
self promo tab?
I feel like only a few people really benefit from having those.
Yeah, definitely not me. I feel like it's more work because like I don't want someone to come in, do a bunch of crazy shit, and then like get everybody in that server banned. I don't know if that's how it works.
Yeah, I like I said, I don't know much about anything technology wise. All right.
I feel that. Likewise. All right, ready to get it popping.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, excellent. Excelente. Yeah, so welcome everybody to the Bars and Joysticks, Tajy Politics, and the Mayhem Calling channels. Right now, Roe versus this is a Friday, and on I believe on Monday or Tuesday we found out that from a leak from I believe it was Justice Alito, Supreme Court Justice Alito, from his camp that Roe v. Wade is very likely to get struck down during summertime, like June or July of this year. And this has like been it's lit a huge match among like all of online politics. People are for it, people are against it, people are saying, oh, this could have been prevented this way or that way. People are okay, these are next steps. People are like, burn it all down. So like there's a lot of different like opinions due to Roe v. Wade being struck down, which is the amendment allowing abortion. So yeah, there's been a lot of like damn, we were on a panel about leftist infighting too. Look at it, circles back in all the wrong ways.
Yep.
Yeah. So there was a lot of discourse going on, a lot of discussions going on about the future of Roe and how this could have been prevented. What are the best next steps? And it really does bring up the question on like whether or not a lot of people feel as though voting is ineffective, despite abortion being popular among like 70-something% of Americans. Like there's a chance of Roe v. Wade striking it down. And that's like a really huge shock, a huge slap in the face of a lot of people that are voters or potential voters, future and past voters. So right now, I'll lay it out here in the front. I think proper voting could have prevented Roe v. Wade. A lot of people to the left of me don't believe so. They feel like voting is a flawed system to begin with, not to strawman anybody, but that's my interpretation of stances. So I'm going to give the floor over to Trey. Can I call you Trey? My bad.
Yeah, you can call me Trey. No, Trey's good.
Okay, Trey from the Mayhem Calling. Please be respectful to them. Please be respectful to me. Don't kick my ass. And we're going to have a civil conversation. And I don't think it's going to get spicy at all. I don't see that with I say that with literally no sarcasm. I promise.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's gonna go rock and roll time.
Yeah. Heck yeah. All right. So cool. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna lay my position out right now. I want to make it clear that I don't believe voting is entirely useless. Like I believe your local elections for sure, absolutely get out there and vote because that's where change actually happens in the community. I feel like though on the national level, because we're not running, the left isn't running any real progressive candidates in any mainstream view. Like the closest we had is Bernie Sanders, who, compared to like Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or anyone, seems like a goddamn communist, but he is pretty much the exact center of the political spectrum. And if that's as far left and as progressive as we can get, we aren't actually looking at the bigger picture. So I feel like this whole Roe v. Wade being overturned, saying that it could have been prevented with voting, sure, possibly. However, we had no majority in the Senate at the time. Like, let's say we got Hillary Clinton in. We still had, Republican-controlled Senate, Republican-controlled House. Hillary Clinton is not exactly... She speaks a big game, but she wasn't necessarily known for her big support of Roe v. Wade back when she was the first lady. So and this has been a Democratic talking point too for a long time, that they're going to codify Roe v. Wade. They're going to codify Roe v. Wade. They're going to make it an amendment. They're going to make it law of the land. And we had a super majority back when Obama was a president, like literally super majority, overwhelming, could have just passed it through no problem. They didn't even touch it. And Obama ran on codifying Roe v. Wade. So for me, I feel like voting really only gets to be important if both it's local and it directly affects the community, and B, if there's actually real progressive candidates running. Other than that, I feel like, this whole vote blue no matter who thing isn't really working out. We got Kirsten Sinema from that and Joe Manchin from that, and that's been a disaster.
Sorry, if I go quiet, it's just me typing. My apologies.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you for saying all that. It seems like, just to jump in there, it seems like there's a lot that I can address real quickly. I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna just be complete flat out. I'm not 1,000% sure why Roe v. Wade has not been codified into federal law. I don't know. It's been due to coziness of believing that Supreme Court stances usually seem like they're rock solid. They last a lifetime, right? And I guess it has lasted a long time, like 60 plus years, I'm assuming, right? 50 years
50,
at least.
years, somewhere around there.
50, 60 years around that. I guess it's not a lifetime. But I think that part of the reason, part of the frustration that people have about voting, especially voting blue no matter who, and in like state and federal elections. Do you mean state when you say like local, by the way? So say like...
So sorry. Yeah, I mean more like state kind of, but I'm talking more like specific at the community level. So like vote for your town hall, vote for the people like your counselors in your district that you're going to be interacting with. Like I meet my counselors, they come to the store that I work at. I meet my personal government officials from this district. They come and they buy lattes from me. So
true. Having a coffee with them, literally. Like a lot of like local politicians will be like, hey, coffee with me, and they'll just like come to the coffee store one time. But like it seems like you do it quite a bit, so that's awesome. I really admire you for that. The thing is, like, I've noticed that. Well, you said a few things. You brought up Hillary Clinton, you brought up Manchin, you brought up Sinema, you brought up like voting for local versus federal. I'm gonna give you state as well. I'm gonna give you that. So first thing first, the Hillary Clinton thing. Do you think that like things would have been different if Hillary won during 2016?
I don't actually. I think that, well, I do. I think that things might have been accelerated a little bit because Republicans were on a run to try to destroy everything Obama did. We just have to look at the last couple of years of his presidency. They would not let him get a Supreme Court judge in. Imagine if we had the deaths that we had and the resignation we had during a 4-year Hillary Clinton run. Our Supreme Court would have been in shambles. And, we would have had to have had a super majority the second that Hillary Clinton got elected in order to get anything done over 4 years. I feel like with Trump, I hate to say it, but I feel like liberals were more active and more engaged in politics under Trump than they would have been if Hillary won.
Oh. I see what you're... Okay. I see what you're saying. I don't know if I agree with that. Just looking at the sheer numbers of Supreme Court justices, Donald Trump during his 4 years in the White House, he elected 3 different Supreme Court justices. All 3 of those, Kavanaugh, what's her name? Coney Barrett. Who's the other person? I'm trying to remember the other person.
Gorsuch.
Gorsuch. Yes, Gorsuch. And Gorsuch, all of them seem like they're like skilled pretty damn right. I'm assuming that those are part of the justice. Definitely the justices that voted no on the Supreme Court case that like brought up Roe v. Wade. So that makes me think that if Hillary Clinton were in office, even though she said that abortion should be safe and rare, I think was her say few and rare, I believe.
Yeah.
That still doesn't make me think that she'd vote for people that'd be anti Roe v. Wade. That'd be anti like abortion rights in general, or even pro choice. Maybe a little bit stricter. I can definitely see that a little bit stricter than like super pro choice. But at the same time, I feel like they wouldn't like strike it down or like at least lift a finger against Roe v. Wade in any meaningful way. Well, Donald Trump's appointee is 3 appointees. That is quite a bit. And I really do think that if Hillary Clinton was elected during 2016, like her 3 justice appointees would have been a lot better. That's just my take on it.
I'm not saying that they wouldn't have been better or that they wouldn't have skewed further left, but my point is, would they have gotten through? You know, because
for 4 years though.
Mitch McConnell. You know, think of Mitch McConnell. Like if Mitch McConnell had his way and Hillary Clinton was president, he wouldn't let a single law pass in her entire 4 years.
Yeah, that like I could see that, but I think the reason why Obama's Supreme Court justice appointee got blocked during his final year is because it was close to the election. If this is me trying to remember 6 years ago, it was close to the election, and the Republicans incorrectly did this. They used it as an excuse to not allow that appointee to go through, which was like pretty damn unethical. I'd even argue that it might not even be the most legal thing for them to do. But at the same time, like I don't know if they'd have the same excuse if it was Hillary Clinton in the Oval Office versus Donald Trump, because that's 4 years, and that was 3 openings that Trump saw. So that makes me think that like Hillary Clinton would have had like more time than Obama had to elect another person in Supreme Court, and we would not have seen like Roe v. Wade being struck down like we likely will this year during the summertime. We're currently seeing right now. One can argue easily.
I mean, I can see that point, and like I'm not going to necessarily 100% disagree with it, but I also kind of look at it as
you want big picture is what I'm assuming. Okay, so like the big picture of like you think that people got that with Hillary Clinton things would have been worse because like liberals would have been even more complacent versus a Trump presidency, where like people and liberals in particular are like less angry at the system and less likely to even consider, even have ideation of turning against the system in a political way. So I see what you're saying. I just, as someone that like people oftentimes call liberal, I'm a Nordic, I'm a Nordic socialist, if that makes sense. I think that I'm just not sure. I've heard good arguments on both ways. So I've heard arguments that like part of the reason why people felt so comfortable with Bernie during 2016, I know Bernie lost the primary, that the reason why people felt so comfortable with Bernie during 2016 was because they had the good time. Shit, bitch, get the fuck off my face. All right, sorry, there's a fly in the room and my fly swatter's gone. Damn it.
The fly is fed.
It boots me on the lip. That was so disrespectful. That was world-class disrespect. So my thought process is that, or this is how I've heard other arguments like this. I'm curious about your thoughts on this. That the good times, quote unquote, of Obama being president for 8 years, a lot of people being open about how further left they can go. That obviously didn't work out as far as like the presidential election in 2016, but I believe Bernie got more delegates during the 2016 election primary versus the 2020. So that could be an indication that people might have been right about the Obama thing, where like Obama did open the floodgates a tad bit to people being more open to being towards the left. But that argument can get played in a bunch of different ways, because I remember 2012 people were turning libertarian. That was like the strong year for libertarian 10 years ago.
Don't remind me. that was a dark point in my life.
Holy shit! Like how impressionable everybody was. Like 10 years ago, we all were super impressionable 10 years ago. I literally remember like someone giving an argument that hate crime shouldn't be a thing because it's criminalizing thought. And I was like, that's a fair argument. I've never heard that before. It's gonna be like a year later, be like, wait a second. It's actually a horrible idea. And yeah, so that's definitely an argument that can be played out as well. What are your thoughts on it?
So I want to like first address the whole Obama turning people left. The thing that I noticed about 2016 is a lot of those Bernie voters, a lot of the people who were like, they were either really into Trump or really into Bernie, were
Yeah.
very much, if you were to put them in a room together, you'd find they have no real ideological difference. The only reason why, because if you asked a lot of Trump voters, they were like, oh, I really do like Bernie Sanders. I just don't think he's going to win. And a lot of Bernie voters were like, I really like Trump. They weren't necessarily like people who were like pro Bernie but would have voted for Trump weren't like weren't like hateful people. They were just like, they're an outsider, they're different, they're going to shake up the system. And it was like that on both sides. And, you know, Bernie does have his history with like anti-immigration, you know, rhetoric and everything like that. I know that he's waved it off in the past, but still, it's got to be acknowledged. So, with all that being said, I feel like it wasn't necessarily a left versus right thing. I think it was more a populist thing. Bernie and Trump were both speaking to the people. Bernie from a position of understanding because he's been there. He was the little guy for a long, long time. And Trump, you know, because for some reason people thought a billionaire was just like them.
Yeah, I think the thought process was, gosh, 6 years ago, was that Trump was the outsider, so they saw him as someone that would quote unquote drain the swamp, and people believed it. Some people thought that Trump was like super crazy and that he'd accelerate things, which I can't say that they're completely wrong on that one,
No.
but my thought process is that like I personally, as a voter and as a citizen, I don't know if I feel comfortable banking on someone like Trump being elected, someone that's like such a wild card in all the wrong ways, like incompetently bad, hilariously bad sometimes as well, to lead to things like Jan 6. Because I just can't ideate properly, like or imagine rather a world post America, like post federal government. So that's kind of like the arguments that I push back on with that one. Can we talk about the cinema and mansion thing?
Yes.
Like the vote blue no matter who, and how like people perceive that as a flawed argument, which I guess sometimes it could be a flawed argument in local governments in particular.
Yes.
There are a lot of Dixiecrats that are Democrats in local governments. And sometimes it might be more productive to vote for green parties or third parties in local county election, things like that. Something where the label doesn't really matter. Like, right. I supported a Republican in Oviedo, Florida, because there was no Democrat running, and the other Republicans were crazy, and she was kind of a neolib, honestly, to be honest. So I'm like, yeah, I'll take the neolib over the crazy people. If everyone's like, okay, yeah, like, gosh, what are some of the crazy opinions people had? I think someone might have been there during January 6th. It hasn't been confirmed yet. Someone else was just like retiring. They're just not really in it, and it's just like other people were just like weird, little weirdos. So yeah, I was supporting her. So yeah, like the vote blue no matter who thing, I can definitely see why that's not always the best thing. I think in national, where we're talking about Senate and House of Representatives, people in Congress and for presidencies, though, I feel like voting blue no matter who is the winning strategy for progress in America. The reason I say that is because I haven't seen I live in Florida, so I might be a little bit biased towards where I am. I haven't seen a third party candidate do super well when it comes to like more national focused elections, especially here in Florida. So if I saw a Green Party person that had a chance of winning, like a shot of winning, then maybe I'd consider them in Congress. For president, not at all. It's either person A or person B. Even if person C is way more attractive, I just got to go with what I find is viable. And I don't mean policy viable, because a lot of times person C might have more viable policies, but one person is going to win it. It's person A or person B. And whichever the the least harmful. The harm reduction candidate is like, I'm gonna go for it. So for a candidate like Sinema, Arizona, to my understanding, is relatively conservative. I don't
Yes.
know who Kirsten Sinema was running against. That was on the Republican Party.
So she was running against sorry.
Yes. If you know more, let me know.
Yes, she was running against Martha McSally. I'm from Arizona, so.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Well, I'm not from. I live in Arizona. Let's put it that way.
For some reason, I had you pegged as Ohio. I don't know why.
I mean, that's fine. But no, she was running against Martha McSally, and I'm not going to say Martha McSally was good. I'm not going to say that she was even bad. She was horrendous. She was one of those like hard right Republicans that didn't support Trump at first because she thought he wasn't hard right enough, and then went to flipping to she thought he wasn't like she thought he wasn't enough of a Nazi to support, and then when Trump was in there for a little while, she flipped hard to being his biggest supporter. She was just like all in on Trump, and it really did hurt her because Arizona is slowly absorbing a lot of the California people. Because we recently legalized weed and we have affordable housing. Well, had that's not going to last for too much longer. And
what?
Yeah, we're getting a ton of people from California, just an influx of them. So it's been crazy just with how much we're getting. So at this point, we're getting a lot more Democrats moving to the state. So it's becoming less of a red state, more of like a purple blue state. We had So, but Kirsten Sinema, she ran on being a radical. She ran on being like, at first she ran on being a radical. Then she pivoted halfway towards the end of the election, being like, "Oh, I want to reach across the aisle."
That makes sense. That makes sense. It was tight for Sinema, by the way. It looks like she won by like, oh my God, like 60,000 people, a little bit less than 60,000. I'm looking at it. All right, so it looks like Sinema got 1,191,000 votes, and McSally got 1,135,000 votes. So
yeah, it was so close. And like, I think for a while Sinema was projected as the loser, and then I think it was Maricopa County, because
heard that name before.
Yeah, that's up in Phoenix area.
That was a turning point for the national one too, like for president, right?
I believe so. That was, I mean, I think by that time they had a pretty clear indication that Joe was winning. But if Joe lost Maricopa, it would be super tight. But Democrats won Maricopa County, and by the way, a lot of people know Maricopa County because of Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Oh wait,
yeah,
the person who said people call me the most racist man in America, and then he got a standing ovation at AFPAC this year.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
And he looked confused too. That was the funniest part. He was like, "What?"
Yep. That's Joe Arpaio, the fucking asshole. But so I wanted to make the point that like Kirsten Sinema, like she literally, as soon as exit polls that she showed that she had a slight lead, instantly pivoted to being the moderate candidate. And then she got into office, and we're looking at her siding with Republicans 9 times out of 10.
It's very odd. Yeah, she might be like Dixiecrat tier. I'm willing to argue that. All right, I'm willing to bet that the reason why she might have like originally started pretty progressive leaning and then like turning more and more conservative as the campaign went on was I think she just had to win. And in order to win, sometimes you have to like bow. That's what democracy is, right? You have to bow down to not bow down. You have to I guess appeal is a good word. Appeal to the masses and get the most votes, get more voters than the other person. So Sinema being someone that like kind of toes the line between liberal and conservative, like I think that's just a result of like where she is. I think maybe if she campaigned in like a place that was more blue, she might have been more left leaning in her policies and her stances. It depends on like that's my thought process, because this was a tight race.
Well, and a lot of people thought that Kirsten Sinema would stick with that because she is the first, openly bisexual senator to be elected. She's one of 2 women senators. Arizona has not had a lot of women senators. Surprise, surprise. So, she's one of 2 women senators elected as one of 2 Democratic senators to the state during, that time. Mark Kelly being the other one, the husband of Gabby Giffords. And then, it was just this whole thing. And like, everyone was like, okay, we have a bisexual woman. She's, she talks a big game. I think it's going to happen. And then she just went there and she just started going, oh yeah, Republican side. And people were like, wait a second, what? Like, I didn't expect her to be 100% like, to be even close to being Ilhan Omar or goddamn AOC. I didn't expect her to be anywhere near there, but I expected her to at least have some integrity.
Yeah, the Cinema Squad.
Yep. And like, another thing that's like gotten me with like the vote blue no matter who is I've seen people pivot so hard. Like, when that last year, like on the borders with the kids in cages, and liberals were just going ham on Trump. They were like, oh, we're going to throw him in jail for this, et cetera, et cetera. Joe Biden has continued the policy, and the same liberals are like, well, where do you expect him to put the kids?
I've heard this complaint before. Let me see. I'm trying to remember. Gosh. I'm trying to remember what. I don't know too much about this topic anymore. This is a much older topic than I remember. I know that Obama had those cages, right? A lot of those cages Obama built, but like the usage under Obama versus the usage under Trump were night and day, completely night and day. To my understanding, I think that the Biden administration might have better intentions. I would assume have better intentions than the Trump administration did, but it is a messier situation than I'm aware of. But I think that Biden is more progressive. The infrastructure bill is great. I really liked the concept of the infrastructure bill. Expanding our access to Wi-Fi, having it where bridges that need to be renovated get renovated. Flint, Michigan still has dirty water. I know Obama probably should have made efforts to fix that and ameliorate that. Trump should have too. But it looks like his Build Back Better plan did have provisions for that. While I am upset about some of his immigration stances, I do think that infrastructurally, I think that the acknowledging of science, things like climate change denial was an issue of the Trump presidency, and a lot of red and Republican legislators and politicians, the bar is literally just that low. It feels like sometimes, and I know that there's a lot of frustration with how things go and how slow things are and how there's a lot of gridlock. And it feels like small states like Wyoming, in some ways, kind of hold down the potential of states like California when it comes to things like our usage of senators and things like that. I still think that voting blue in national elections, where someone's even just a tad bit left, is better than if someone were completely to the right. The bar is just literally that low. I was going to bring up Joe Manchin as well. I brought up his Ballotpedia profile for, I think this is the 2018 election as well. Him versus someone named Patrick Morrissey. There's another libertarian dude. So it looks like Joe Manchin barely won in his district as well, in his state. Manchin won by 49.6% of the vote, and Morrissey won by 46.3%, and the libertarian dude got 4.2% of the vote. Yeah, it looks like Manchin won by about 20,000 votes. 20,000 in West Virginia. Do lean pretty populist conservative, and Joe Manchin was just a better fit, just more attracted to the most amount of people. He was just the more democratically fit elector, unfortunately. And that's just how it goes. A person like Joe Manchin, they wouldn't win in a place like New York or California. cinema either, but they would win in their districts. They're that type of blue for those districts. And that harm reduction is there, I believe, unless if I don't know anything about Patrick Morrissey or McNally. If I were to look at Patrick Morrissey, I would not be surprised if he was like some sort of super crazy conservative guy. I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if he was like a super like left leaning conservative guy, where he's like, oh yeah, like pro life. I mean pro choice. I believe in climate change. We should focus on clean energy. I don't know if this Morrissey guy would be like that. I just don't have that expectation of him.
And that's kind of where like I'm coming from when I say like the vote blue, no matter who, is flawed, because we're looking at candidates that are at the absolute best, giving them the most benefit of the doubt. They are center right. Mm-hmm. And when I hear like Democrats say, oh, we're the party of caring, we're the party of people, of humanity, of, you know, like love, it's like, you're not electing people who are. I mean, I want to say like the closest we have are the Squad, and even they aren't quite there yet. Like AOC is probably the furthest left, and she barely passes center. That is how, you know, like that is how far the Overton window has shifted. But you've noticed in places where true progressive candidates run, and they run consistently, they tend to win.
Places like where? Like
well, like in
like
New
California?
York.
Oh, New York? Yeah,
like New York, California, but like even in Arizona, we have progressive candidates sitting in our council because they stayed progressive. The people who like were flip-floppy or centrist, people are like, no, we don't want that. We want someone who's speaking directly to us.
Yeah, but to be fair, like the pool of voters is different. So in a county level, you can get people that are super, super, super progressive. Like say if in Orange County, I'm in Orange County, Florida. In Orange County, you can be pretty left, like Anna Escamani, Maxwell Frost. You can be pretty far, not super far to the left, but you can be pretty decently to the left and win in these counties. But with certain districts like that, when we go outside of Orange County and we share a district with Seminole County, which is a little bit more conservative than us, then that tone changes because the pool of voters change. So this is just the expansion of the Democratic pool. So for small pools, yeah, I can see that. But for certain pools, like just to be the most Democratic for those districts, for those like voting areas and blocks. So like for West Virginia, like democracy for them, or the results of their democracy is a lot different than the results of your county or my county. Does that make sense? I hope I explained it without being rambly.
No, you're absolutely right. Like a good argument against like voting actually making change, because if you have to like toe that line all the time, you have to be like that centrist Democrat to even have a chance of winning. Doesn't that kind of seem like, holy shit, why do we call these two parties when they're really the same party? As both of our mutual friend Dan Platt once said, the Republicans will stab you 2 inches in the back, and Democrats will pull it out an inch.
I feel that. I just feel like that's just the most productive system that our founders built out for us. I just can't see. Maybe I'm just so dogmatically American. I just can't see an alternative yet. I just don't see an alternative where we're not in some level beholden to smaller counties, or smaller like voting districts in our own. And that's just kind of how things just kind of broke down, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so this is where whole thing is going to kind of flip. I agree with you on that level, that this is the best system for what has been created, but that doesn't make it a good system.
That's right. Like, there are many flaws. It's a continuous process. The America we started out with, like back in 1776, is a lot different than the America of today. Yes. It'll be different in 100 years from now.
Yes, and
hopefully in a better way.
I'm hoping in a better way. But like, this is where I'm like saying is that we're continuing a cycle by allowing for the voting that we have to continue. We have electoral college, which sure, that's great for certain instances. Like, oh, this county is getting their votes because there's only 1,000 of them versus in California where there's a million of them in a similar sized county. But it's like that, like you said before, Wyoming is getting the same representation as California
in the Senate, yeah.
And that's great for a local level. That's great for like Wyoming's being like, yeah, we're our voice is heard. But that's not great for America as a whole. When most of America supports certain policies, but you have to share the stage with like the smallest group of people. And don't get me wrong, I believe that every voice should be heard. Every argument should be heard. But if your argument is good enough, then don't you think people would come over to your side anyways?
Yeah. I see what you're saying. And I think that the reason why we have in our Congress, we have like the House of Representatives, which is more representative for each side. So like Florida has X amount, California has X amount, Wyoming has like jack shit. I think that's good. But I think giving like the smaller states a reason to still be a part of the union, I think that's important. Even though I don't know, what does Wyoming contribute to America? I can't tell you. I really can't tell you. No dissing of Wyoming. Like Kanye West videos. Is that it? Is that all?
I'm gonna see what Wyoming's main export is while you continue your thought.
Yeah, probably some sort of grain. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I talked about Kanye for a second. Yeah, so I think giving them like a fair shot of having right now, like democratically speaking, like the majority of Americans seem to like not be batshit fucking crazy. But hypothetically speaking, it would be possible, say if California was crazy and all the big states are crazy, but little state Wyoming was the only base state in the union, then Wyoming have like a little bit of like of a fight in the game as far as like doing things like ratifying amendments and things like that. They'd have senators that can vote on things and build coalitions with other states as well while voting for voters and to enact change legislatively. Right now, it doesn't seem like that's the case, but I don't know if like down the line, like say 70 years from now, if that case could be different.
And this is kind of where like we look at that and we say, like we flip the sides and like all that. We're just looking at. By the way, I wanted to add this. Wyoming's biggest export in 2020 was disodium carbonate.
Is that some sort of disodium carbonate? I'm about to say that's nutritional yeast, but that's wrong. That's not true. I don't know what that is. What is that?
I'm gonna look that up right now.
Okay.
So we're not like.
Is it a fertilizer?
So it's like for alcohol or alkaline solutions in water, I think it is.
Oh.
Disodium. Yeah, I think it's just like for alkalines. It's like it's a white odorless water soluble salts that yield moderately alkaline solutions in water. So, okay, I mean,
okay,
good. Thank you, Wyoming, for the disodium carbonate.
All right, appreciate that, Wyoming.
But so we're looking at that and we're saying, well, cool. Why do we need a national government if that's going to be the case? Because that national government cannot, like, by its very nature, it cannot represent everyone in the union. Why don't we have smaller governments across the country? But like, no, I'm not saying like get rid of the president, get rid of Congress, get rid of the Senate. Our local politicians can do more work for us overall, get us more help, more infrastructure, more everything if they don't have to answer to like a higher level of bureaucracy.
Yeah, our politicians should be answering to us. And I think for the most part they do. It's just that sometimes the us that they answer to are just like fucking idiots. Just to put things bluntly. The reason why I feel like we do need a federal government is because like things like money, right? Things like transportation, things like defending ourselves versus bigger entities that are more organized than us. Say if we were all split up in different unions. I think that'd be really problematic, and I think really harmful to our way of life and state of life and quality of life if we were split up in multiple different unions.
Yeah, so I can see how that's in our current system, how that would be bad. Now, as people can't tell by the title, I am an anarchist, so I am for the abolition of all hierarchy that is deemed unjust. The way I see it is that communities working together versus one big overarching force, like deciding which communities get the resources. It becomes a problem of red tape. So, like, let's say, for example, Arizona had the resources to go over to Flint, Michigan right now and fix their water supply. In the current system, well, first off, we'd have to have the right people in office to even put the bill forward. Then they would have to go do it, vote on it, approve it, ratify it. Then it would have to go to a federal level because they're talking about state line stuff now. And if the federal level is like, no, can't do that because of this law from 1986, that's just screws up an entire state, an entire city because of technicalities. Versus without that whole red tape, without that whole bureaucracy, the collective people can be like, hey, I see that you have water. I see that your pipes are just completely trash. You have no clean water. We're coming over there. We're bringing the materials. We're getting that done. In 1 month, you will have clean water again. That is, you are keeping the community small, but you are also still a united people. You just don't have to worry about your particular situations, your particular area needs. Like Arizona needs a little more artificially given water than, like somewhere like Florida, where you're surrounded by water on almost all sides. That is where, the local issues can take part. You can be, as a community, say, hey, we need this because our cactus supply it's dying out. Oh, we need to plant more cactuses. We need to get, more water to do artificial rainwater from California. Go to California. Say, hey, can we get some of this? Yeah, boom. And yeah, there's going to be some fights, but in a society like that, it's more fair and more egalitarian for everyone to at least have the chance to offer that versus having to go through a chain of command that can be broken by any random individual.
That does sound like it would be a nice thing. I just don't think that this is going to be the classic grandpa human nature argument at this point. Why would Arizona, if Arizona were a completely different union than Michigan, why would they give a damn about Flint, Michigan?
Well, because we're all people and we all have something to offer each other.
Yeah, but is that if Arizona followed that logic, then they would just be giving all their resources away. Like resources would be even more finite with like a less like robust and large. Wouldn't it be more possible for, say, like if Arizona were to offer that, would it, do you think it'd be more likely for Arizona to be like, okay, we understand that Flint have these water issues, we can help out, what can you do for us?
I mean, yeah, the barter system is excellent. Like that's stuff that we can try, or you can be like, hey, in the future we might need you to, like how Detroit has a lot. Well, it was a big, factory city for a long time. They still have that stuff there. It's just a lot of it's sitting empty because of shutdowns, economic recessions, depressions, all that stuff. We can send you the stuff. But while we're there, while we're rebuilding your water supply, we want to use those for us. We want to use those because we have some infrastructure issues.
Okay.
So that's an example. It's not a great example, but it's stuff like we can use each other's resources, and we don't need to like. It doesn't have to be like a give, take. It could be, hey, we're there. We're already doing this. Let's do this too. And sometimes a place won't have resources, and why should those people be forced to die out just because they don't have something to give?
Yeah, but at the same time, like, why should one union be beholden to another union when they have all these people? They have all these millions of people within like the state of Arizona, or the sovereign state of Arizona now. Like, they have their own people to care about, their own people to whose lives they need to elevate. Why would it be in? I don't even know what hierarchy would be there in Arizona, but why would the people of Arizona like go out of their way to do this for people that are in a completely different part of the country? Pass through all these states and go through all the trouble of passing through states, which I feel like a lot of states wouldn't even have open borders. But if they did, let's ignore that. Why would they like be willing to? Why would they do all that for like no benefit? And if they did do that for their own benefit, then like it'd have to be their perceived benefit, right? So it'd become like this like weird like anarcho pseudo capitalist society where instead of like money being exchanged, it's like goods and services being exchanged. But at that point, why as well just have like a federal government that prints out money that people can use in exchange for goods. I feel like that might be more fair, more productive overall. And like it wouldn't, and even in lacking the profit incentive that a federal government has, I feel like that might be better. Like, we don't make money off of the pipes in Flint, Michigan being fixed. It's just like a thing to do. It's like it's something that's like exactly your point. Like, why should people know? But that's what the federal government does with no profit to itself. And I feel like that'd be like better for everybody, if that makes sense.
I mean, that's one way to look at it. And there can be issues like that arise. But then again, another thing that we can look at is, okay, so we get rid of the federal government, we get rid of red tape, we get rid of like unjust hierarchy. It's a horizontal hierarchy where the people can recall the people in charge. Well, now guess who's in charge of fixing the pipes? The people who are consuming it. They're like, okay, now we can do something versus having to wait for, because like right now, if you got a bunch of the people in Flint, Michigan with hammers, they went down there and they tried fixing the pipes, they get arrested in 2 seconds, even if they know what they're doing. But without that hierarchy, now they can go and fix their damn infrastructure and no one's going to tell them no.
I think that with the fixing of pipes and like other things, like say like in the future, I really hope to see more solar panels and things like that. A lot of these things are more complicated where like the average citizen can't do these things by themselves, or like rallying such a group to like complete such a gargantuan task of like replacing like pipes would be really, really, really hard, or such a Herculean effort where I don't even know if that'd be worth the shake for them. They might as well just move at that point. So that makes me wonder, like, if these things are truly possible in smaller county-wide hierarchies. There are certain issues that a county can't solve that afflict the county, that a federal government might be more useful in. Also, on another level, I don't know. Say if things were like cut down where like all the states were sovereign. I don't know what horrible things can happen under that system. Like, what happens if a county's doing something super exceedingly fucked up? Who jumps in and stops that? Would it be the voters? Would it be who would it be like people running on and causing like finding and building their own militias? Or I just don't know. Like, we can go with like the logic of like an armed society is a safer society. Armed society is a more polite society, where people think that they can just like no scope people if someone cuts up in the worst way ever. But I just don't know if it'd play out that way versus something more heinous. Like like a Walking Dead type of situation, almost.
So I can see where you're coming from if you're looking at sovereignty as the way that like it's used now, like as in a sovereign nation. You know, our borders are closed unless we tell you they're open, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But that is not necessarily what anarchist sovereignty is. It's not about, you know, the recallable hierarchy is literally your peers and it changes all the time. It's not like voting. It's like these people know what they're doing. Okay, now it's our turn. We learn from you. We're going to keep going. Everyone has to take part. Everyone has to, you know, like, and yes, it is voluntary, but at the same time, I feel like there's enough people that, if given the opportunity, would be able to do the things that we need them to do. Because, like, me personally, I know a little bit about building infrastructure. I did construction. So I know a little bit about it. If it were up to me, I would sit there and I would talk to people who have repaired roads and I said, okay, how can I help? What can I do? Versus having to, you know, go through the process of applying, getting the job, getting my certificates, getting my, you know, training in, and then going to do it. What can I do to help you right now? Because people don't like they don't like to live in a rat hole. And if given the opportunity, they will step up. Maybe not right away. Maybe like if we get rid of government and we get rid of currency and like it's just it. We're done with capitalism. For a little while, people will probably, you know, go crazy. They'll loot, they'll riot, they'll, you know, be lazy. They'll stay at home playing Fortnite all the time. But eventually things will plateau. Things will even out. Because then they realize no one is coming to save us but us. So now we have to fix this. It has shown that when a society has more anarchist tendencies, more collectivist tendencies, people tend to help each other out. They tend to work because no one likes to be lazy all the time. Sure, that work may be as simple as going out and picking up the trash in your front yard. But that's still 100,000 times better than being told for some reason you can't, because there has to be the person who picks up trash in your HOA. And if you're picking up your own trash, they don't get paid. You know, I'm not saying that's a likely possibility, but similar things do happen where like there's so much red tape that it's like, what if we can just get rid of that? We can help. We can do what we need to do. We can learn what we want to learn to contribute.
Right, but I feel like there would be like a lot of really weird and strange consequences of that. I think you did brush over it, and I think you're saying that maybe like the weird and strange consequences won't be a constant, but rather a bump before a better path gets treaded on. But when I'm thinking of like buildings, right, like know about certain gravitational factors or certain physical factors of the building, that someone that's certified in something, it has the validation of like many hundreds of other builders and people that work in construction, provides of like a certification. Like what if someone's like a doctor, and sure they want to be a doctor from the jump. Like they'll watch a few YouTube videos and like, all right, I'm ready to operate on somebody. Let's do a brain surgery. And there's like a lot of horrible like consequences of people like dying, or a lot of like unintentional consequences of people dying or having to lose limbs, or having like weird malformities, based off of how they had like medical malpractice taken upon them, right? Trying to think like builders, doctors. How about even teachers? What if like there's a teacher that's like, all right, I really want to teach fourth grade, and then they don't teach their kids jack shit. They just read them comic books all day, and they don't learn any sort of like math or anything like that. I feel like there'd just be a lot of things in societies like that would just go awry and would have a lot of issues, and entire professions would just like be erased in a society like that. With like a land without laws, I don't understand why there would be lawyers. You know, and I'm not saying that lawyers are like the building block of a society. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that it is a right now in this society, it's a pretty lucrative career path, if not miserable. But I don't see why how like there. All right, what am I trying to say? I think that a lot of careers would somewhat vanish, and it also takes away from if everything is a necessary skill, where someone's like has to be a builder or someone has to be a doctor, then what happens to singers and poets and people that do soft skills? Like what happens to people that find like pathways in life that are like more frivolity, like less so much of like the lower end of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but are like what happens to like the level 2 and level 1 people in that, where something's like, oh, like a makeup artist isn't as important to society as a builder is, right? Whereas as a farmer is. So what happens to people that want to go to those more vain jobs, if that's maybe that's the wrong word, vain, more vain jobs versus the ones that are more necessary for society to stay alive?
That's something that actually I've been asked about before, and I look at it kind of like this. First off, I'm going to address the 2 points separately. First off, with as far as like, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a brain surgeon right now. As we see, go to a job. Like if you ever see like a company where like the manager calls out, everyone is going to go to the most senior, most knowledgeable employee. They're going to say, okay, we don't know what to do. What do we do? How do we keep the store running?
Sorry.
So, in my experience working in those kind of situations where we didn't have a manager in the store, I was the closest thing to a manager because I've been at my company for 10 plus years. People come to me. They say, hey, Trevor, I need your help. Okay, I know what to do. This is what we can do to keep this, keep this store running smoothly. People, they still like a little bit of direction, even if they don't necessarily have the need for law, because humans are they're not as spontaneous as they like to think they are. Yes, some are. Some are the kind of person who would just run out naked in the middle of the street if there were no laws. But most of them aren't. So we look at, there's still that appeal to authority, but that authority isn't God in this society. Because we know that authority, or not authority, that's the wrong term. Appeal to expertise is a better way to put it.
Okay.
If someone's an expert in something, if someone knows something really well, you're more likely to trust them than the person who just spent 5 minutes on Google, i.e., vaccine research, how gender works, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't mean that that person who's an expert is right all the time about everything. So we may default. We may be like, oh, I want to be a brain surgeon, but this guy knows more than me. I'm going to study under him for a couple of years. I'm going to learn everything that I need to learn.
So you're mentioning like quicker specialization is what you're saying. So like say someone to be a brain surgeon, they don't have to go through 2 English courses in college and all that other bullshit. They can just get straight to the medical stuff.
Exactly. Stuff like that. They don't need like all this red tape, but they should still probably know what they're doing. They should still probably learn under someone who knows what they're doing. But you're also not going to expect that brain surgeon to know how to build a dam, a reservoir. You're not going to expect that brain surgeon to know how to build infrastructure. You're going to expect that brain surgeon to know how to cut people's heads open. Vice versa, you wouldn't want a construction worker to be sitting there putting your arm back together. Maybe you would. I've seen some amazing stuff on construction sites, but still.
Yeah.
It's like the principle of things. You go for the people who know what they're doing, and if you really want to be a part of that, you learn from them. Because all it takes is one person getting a little gung, sit back and say, you know what? I'm going to let the experts do this. I'm gonna know my role for a little bit, and then on to the second part of your question. Hang on. Can you repeat the second part of your question?
Yeah, I was talking about what happens to people that do jobs that aren't necessarily needed for survival. So someone is a basketball player or a rapper or a makeup artist. What or fuck it. Yeah, I'll say it. What a fucking YouTuber, a Twitch streamer. Fuck them. What happens to them? Like how useful are they? How needed are they? In a society like the one you're describing.
Well, first off, hi Frackle. I see you in the chat.
Hey, what's up, Frackle?
Yeah. Second off, those don't necessarily have to go away. So we look at it as we have needs in society. And a lot of people, like when they think of anarchism, they think of anarcho-communism, they go back to Soviet era Russia, where everyone was in the fields all the time. That does not need to be the case. We can have, I think it was in Conquest of Bread. I don't remember the exact page, but like in the Conquest of Bread, I believe they go over that a person only needs to work 5 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week in order to produce enough linen for a community. So first off, a lot of that stuff can be automated. So,
that's what Kropotkin said. Yep. I don't disagree with that.
So we can eliminate a lot of those overworking hours because a lot of the time we're just building a surplus. We don't need to build a surplus. Because you know what happens with surpluses? They get thrown in the garbage.
And
then a lot of these processes can be automated, such as, creating linen, such as, freaking creating cars, creating, certain supplies. Not everything can be automated, of course. You don't want a machine necessarily operating on your body.
I think that automated capabilities, like while they're advanced now, well, should I call present things advanced? I think they can be advanced like way more in the next 30 years in ways that we haven't even thought about. Like when I'm seeing like 3D printed houses, I'm like, what? So you may be right where, and right now my stance will change if we have like crazy good automation where a lot of like work gets automated, to the point where like those like survival jobs aren't necessarily needed, and like people just like work for the 20 hours a week or whatever. I can definitely see that in like some sort of like really nice sci-fi future, where it's like Star Trek-y, I guess. It's like right now for like current prescriptions on how I want to currently move, I just have many reservations about it. And I think a lot of them stem from I just don't see them happening at this present time. In the future, possibly. In the future, I can definitely see things like safe with way more automation. What am I saying with this? Where am I going? What is the point that I'm catching up to? I guess the point that I'm catching up to is that right now, as it currently stands, I feel like there's a lot of labor out there that people only do because they just need a paycheck. Where like it's not like a passion driven thing. Like if you go to a construction site, how many people really want to be like, honest to God, really want to be at a construction site for the hours that they put in each day, waking up at 4 a.m. To building some bullshit that they don't think they'll ever go inside of. While people would feel comfortable building things like houses, in a like I guess in a suburb like way. For things like high rises and things like that, I don't see like construction workers being like, or at least having enough construction workers willing to do it for the hours that construction workers have to put in. I don't see them doing that. Even on roads and things like that. In the efficiency and the productivity that we have today, in a way where people kind of show up and go as they please.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you there. There's a lot of things that we can go through. There's a lot of situations, but at the end of the day, we're kind of looking at what we know about society and we're not looking at what society could become, because right now society is based around
Oh yeah.
individualism. Like, we don't have that collectivist nature, especially in America, because we've been corrupted and poisoned by capitalism. Like, it's been taking us to a point where a lot of us are, like, even a lot of anarchists are just trying to survive. They're trying to get by. They don't have time to go out and do as much direct action and mutual aid as they'd love to, because they have to pay $2,000 in rent.
Yeah.
So
It's disgusting out here.
yeah. But let's remove those barriers.
Yeah, and I would like to have a lot of those barriers removed. While we're talking about ideal societies, like my ideal society is kind of the opposite of yours. It has like a strong government. It has like a whole lot of regulation, to prevent things like employer abuses and things like that. With that being said, like um, Bullshit Jobs by David Graeber.
Yeah, David Graeber is an excellent. Like, I've read Bullshit Jobs at least 2 or 3 times. I don't
Really?
remember. Yeah, I'm not good with memory, so I need to read it again if I'm going to quote like anything specific out of it. But it's excellent. Definitely give it a read.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like Fractal gave me the suggestion before, and I didn't. Let me write this down.
And yeah, Fractal is employer abuses to have workers own their labor. Absolutely, like if we take a look at like true co-ops where it's just the employees owning everything, it's not a megacorp behind it. If we look at collectives, if we look at stuff like that, it still happens, but it happens less, and the people who commit the abuse are often punished swifter and more efficiently because of the fact that it's collective, because it's worker owned, because there's not that hierarchy. It's a horizontal system.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily against co-ops. My thing for all right. So my ideal system is just one of a really strong government, a really strong welfare system, a really strong public housing option, a really strong public transportation option, free Wi-Fi, free energy, things like that. And I think with those borderline baseline, like lower level on my, I go off of Maslow's hierarchy needs a little bit much, but the borderline like things of like shelter, of food, of water, that floor level stuff taken care of, where those things are truly guaranteed, and like not something that people have to fight for. I feel like a lot of employer abuses from there would just stop. There's less of a demand for workers. I mean, less of a demand for workers to have an employer. So there'd be a lot more collective bargaining in the market, where those needs are already taken care of. If that makes any sense, like hopefully I put that down
No, and
really efficiently. And I think that's easier to obtain than an anarchist society at the moment. I truly believe that is something that can be obtained and fought for by educating voters, where they vote for legislation that has like way more public health care, way more public housing, where it has like way more efficient public transportation and things like that. I think we'll see a very strong, like very beautiful change in the lives of many Americans, from all classes, and a lot more social mobility as far as like, or economic mobility rather, where people can go from one class to another extremely easily, or with a lot more ease than what we currently have in a life, or with a lot less risk too. And I think that'd be like a better future for everyone, and also more automation. That'd be hot.
Yeah, no, and like, so I'm having like flashbacks to when I was calling myself a socialist. I was like full on sock them. I actually proposed a system where everyone's like, "Oh, I don't want taxes. I don't want taxes." But you know why they don't want taxes? Because those taxes don't pay for things that they are immediately getting. They're paying for Social Security. They're paying, for their income tax. They're paying for Medicaid. I'm not going to be able to use Medicaid till I'm in my 60s.
If it's still around.
Yeah, if it's still around. I'm paying into it either way. I'm paying into Social Security either way. You know what I would rather see those funds go to? universal healthcare, universal utilities, universal education. You put that in there, and it's like you're going to start seeing the shift away. As weird as it sounds, you have all these government protections. You're going to start seeing the shift away from government. Because suddenly, holy shit, we don't need these people.
Yeah, in a way, I'm not opposed to like. All right, so the system that I propose, I feel is a lot more possible. Something that I can see when I'm an old man. Maybe not now, maybe not when I'm like middle aged, maybe when I'm older, if I ever make it to that part in life. But down the line, if there was some sort of like Star Trek future where there's actually like an environment where communism and anarchism can thrive, and the people within it can thrive as well, then like yeah, I'd be open to it. Whatever causes like the most amount of joy for the most amount of people. So if we did things like eliminate borders, eliminated like federal governments and things like that, and the planet was united as one, then like I'd be very, very, very interested in what you're proposing. Or maybe I'd already be there. I don't know. Maybe I would already be there.
I kind of see it like right now we're already pretty much there. Like we have the infrastructure, we have the systems to put it into place. We just need to get rid of the notion that everyone needs to make money. If we just provided them, like that sounds weird, I know, but like if we provided people with the stuff they need, just like flat out, we give them their shelter, we give them their utilities. That's something we can do already. We have the money for it. Let's face it. If we're, and if we're paying more in taxes because of it, if, they want to take away 50% of my paycheck to make sure that everyone in this country is housed, is fed, has utilities, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, 50% of your paycheck, but your housing's cheaper, your food's cheaper. Oh shit! All the things you use your money for anyway, you have better options for it. It's guaranteed, and yeah, of course, yeah.
Like that's something we can do right now, and we don't even need communism for it. We don't even need anarchism for it. We just need people who give a shit, and that's part of the reason why. That's how we can shift this conversation, because it started off with like, I don't believe voting on a national level can work. But I believe that if we elect people, starting at the local level, but building up, if we elect people who have these same values and we shift the Overton window back, because right now, we're looking at people like Kirsten Sinema as being center and Nancy Pelosi as hard left, when no, neither one of those are true. If we can shift the Overton window back, back left, they will happen. We will get people who are like that. And we will get those changes. We just, right now, with the way that we have our system set up, you're voting for getting shot or getting stabbed. One is less fatal, but neither one of them, it feels good.
I see what you're saying. And you know what? I think you changed my mind on something a little bit. I know I just smirked right there. It's not a devilish smirk.
No, that's fine.
So what you're saying is just like getting people from a grassroots level to not only vote more progressive in local elections, but when they do that, when that praxis occurs, then like in that local area, then like then the desire for politicians to replace cinema and things like that will occur, just because the culture in that area is changing, and that becomes contagious and kind of like transports all throughout the state, hopefully, and like maybe in like a wellspring of hope and of like the desire for progress and change that can like spread to different areas of the county and then the state and eventually the country. So yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I want the best future for the most amount of people, the most joy for the most amount of people. And so what you're saying is just like the praxis of it versus like the entire abolition of it entirely, or maybe the practice in order to get to the point of abolition entirely.
Yeah, I mean,
God damn it! Why can't fucking anarchists communicate that?
you know why the reason why anarchists can't communicate that is because a lot of them are too online, they're too on Twitter, and they have 240 characters to try to explain why they hate voting. But like if they were to sit down, well, and I think a lot of them too are just fed up. A lot of them are swallowing the doomer pill. I have a very strong, like, I take the words of Ho Chi Minh, Fred Hampton, of those very seriously when I say that I have strong revolutionary optimism. We don't need, like, I hear people say, like, oh, the world's definitely going to end due to climate disaster because we're already irreversible. No, we are not irreversible, but we have to do something. We cannot take the doomer pill.
Damn straight, damn straight. And that was my issue with a lot of the discourse surrounding Roe v. Wade, because it feels like people took the doomer pill, or people took the like even worse, like the like violent revolution, but everyone is just like was just playing Animal Crossing and smoking pot a week ago, and they think they can take over the government type of pill. And like that, nothing wrong against weed or Animal Crossing, but I'm just saying, like, these people obviously can't overthrow a government. Of in the action of actually inspiring voters to be more progressive, and then having that become more and more contagious. And as Frackle said, that is a winning strategy, because the friggin' fascists are using it, and they're getting their shit taken care of, it feels like.
Yep.
Yeah.
And honestly, one thing I've noticed is if you give true progressive ideologies, if you tell people like, hey, we're not here to force this upon you. We just want a society where it's accepted, tolerated, and they could be your neighbors without, you hating them. And you are going to benefit too. People are willing to listen. The problem is right now, they have these people talking in their ears, these fucking fascists talking in their ears, telling them if that trans person gets the right to use a restroom, you will never be able to eat at a restaurant again. That's the kind of shit they're saying. And that's not the case. It's never been the case. They've shared, I guarantee you that 99% of the people who are worried now about fucking bathrooms have shared the restroom with a trans person before and didn't think twice about it. And the only reason they're worried about it now is because of the fucking fascists have turned it into a culture war. You have these anti-SJWs, these fascist Republicans like Madison Cawthorn and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ted Cruz pushing this narrative. But if they just take a step back and they look and they listen, and we are able to give them that sort of like conversation, and not everyone should have to. I'm not saying like a person who's been beat up and marginalized for their entire life should have to sit there with someone who may not consider themselves racist, but definitely walks across the street when a black person walks down next to them. If they were to actually be able to sit down and have those conversations one-on-one, face-to-face, and explain to them their policies, I'm sure that most people would be like, oh, that's what you want? That's all you want? You don't want to like throw me in prison for being a white straight guy?
Yeah.
It's just we don't have the opportunities for those conversations right now because there's so much talking heads.
Yeah. And also like the amount of virtue signaling is just like horrendous. Not virtue signaling, but like purism, my bad. It's just kind of horrific. Like, I've noticed this. It really does feel like, because I've talked to people on the left and people on the right on the ground a lot. Do you know who's better at selling their ideas, or at least opening the circle to share their ideas with you? The fucking people on the right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's so stupid. So fucking backwards. Was that my stomach, or that was a dog, right? That wasn't me.
I think so.
Okay. I was like,
no, but like, it's not, it's like, it's so true. And like, I know that some leftists are trying. I know that there is like this movement going on. I like, for me, for example, I'm really trying to like, know it sucks because sometimes I fall into troll arguments, but I have
Yeah.
legitimately changed people's minds just by sitting down and having these discussions with them. And if you can find a person who hasn't been Tucker pilled to a point where there's no brain left in their head, it's just all worms, you can get them to listen and you can get them to agree. They may not believe everything you say. They may not want to install a communist government, but they'll at least be like, half my paycheck's not so bad, if I don't have to pay for my mortgage anymore.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
literally things like that. And again, I do believe that that's a possibility. Now, of course, I do have to preface this by saying insurrection, overthrowing the government, all that stuff. If it works, I advocate for it, but not legally. This is all satire, FBI.
Yeah, Minecraft.
In
Yeah,
Minecraft.
and a lot of my frustration like actually came from comments like that. But like, but yeah, exactly, and that's important. I'm trying to do more of that. I don't do that nearly enough as I should. And I'm trying to make it like I'm talking about politics online. I need to be doing that to people, like in downtown Orlando. I need to be doing that with people, just like anywhere I can find people that are open to having me and hearing me. Um, and like, yeah, it's not always going to be present. Like, but there are certain people where their role in the quote unquote revolution, if I'm allowed to use that term as a sock dim, it's just like changing hearts and minds and talking to people that are relatively unpleasant. Like you can talk about like healthcare with someone and they don't want to pay for healthcare and shit like that. And like, yeah, sometimes like as you just said, you have to dust off your sandals and continue on. Get the dust off the sandals and continue
Yeah.
on.
It's all about the fact of the matter is we are a collective society, whether we want to be or not.
Mm-hmm.
We all have, you know, we all have the most powerful tool in the world at our hands, and it's not the internet, it's our mouths. We are the propaganda machine, and propaganda is just a term, it's a neutral term. I know people say, oh, propaganda, that's bad. No, propaganda can be used for good. Because even spewing facts, even just giving people facts that make their life better, is propaganda. So
Yeah.
you can use that to your advantage to change hearts and minds. We build up this, this system where everyone is getting what they need. And suddenly, we realize, hey, we don't really need the government to do this. We could do this ourselves. So slowly we phase out government. And that's the ideal situation. We can phase out all this crap that we complain about simply by just changing hearts and minds, shifting the Overton window left, getting more progressive people in there, and then dissolving it from the inside.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Oh, okay. So that shit, we agreeing. We is agreeing. In the meantime, though, would you just to push back a tad bit, even though we're agreeing on a fuck ton of things right now. In the meantime, though, would you think it'd be the most practical behavior to be as progressive as you can be in local elections that you have a very strong locus of control on? And willing to make those compromises in the national state level things. Say for Senate, if it's like a blue candidate versus a red candidate, and the blue candidate is just slightly better than the red candidate, but they're the only two people that have the numbers to win. Would you be willing to vote for the blue person for the time being until you get your policies and we get our progress pushed up to the larger national levels in American politics?
I will say this: if I'm bleeding out and I need a tourniquet, but all I have is a Band-Aid, I'm not going to sit there and just bleed out. I'll put the Band-Aid on. So yes, harm reduction is important, but I don't believe that it's enough. And I don't believe that just staving off the bleeding for a little bit longer, holding as much blood inside of you as possible, is a compromise. It's a, what's the term I'm looking for? It's not really a compromise. It's a manipulation tactic. You're being forced to do this. I believe that, yes, put the Band-Aid on, but go find a fucking tournament. Wrap that.
Fight for that tourniquet. Yeah.
Because that Band-Aid is not going to hold.
Yeah. Okay. I'm seeing it now.
I'm not going to sit here. One of the things that, I do want to add this. One of the things that, one of my good friends, Ronan Youngblood, once said, and we did a panel with them, so...
I think I subscribed to them on YouTube, actually.
They said that, and yes, Frackle, that's, that's actually the perfect quote for the situation by Malcolm X. It ain't healing when someone pulls a knife halfway out. It's only healing when the wound is actually being tended. Perfect. Thank you, Frackle, for that quote. Thank you, Malcolm X.
Yeah.
We can't rest on our laurels, and that is why I'm having issues with the vote blue no matter who going back around. Is because we have a lot of libs who they got Biden in, they're back to brunch, fuck the rest of the world.
The brunch Dems. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, there are people that went to a protest for Roe v. Wade, right? And then there was a large protest, a lot of people came out, then it's okay, we're done doing shit until election time. Yeah, that's super frustrating. There's a lot of work to be done between now and when we go to the ballots. Did you just say something? I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of work to be done between now and when we go to the ballots, and I think that the laziness that we seem to fall for, that I don't see that laziness in conservatives, unfortunately.
They'll
throw events, they'll do these ridiculous flag waving things, they'll be so crazy.
The thing about the thing I want to say about the far right, because we can't call them conservatives. They're not conserving anything. They are trying to overthrow into a fascist government. They work for their shit. January 6th, I'm going to say it. I disagree with the motive, but not the method. Because if they were working for the side that was for equality, for,
Yeah, if the election actually got not overturned, if the election actually got quote unquote stolen, right? If that was an actual thing, then that I feel like that might, it's almost certainly an appropriate course of action if you can't vote anymore,
And these people, they legitimately believe that. That's why we need to first, I'm not saying we need to lie, but we need to create our own QAnon somehow. Not lying, not conspiracy theory stuff, but just something that powerful that grips people.
Truthanon, our own even more base Gravel Institute.
Exactly,
Truanon. Holy shit, that's such a good name.
There you go.
Fuck.
There you go. That could be the movement. Truanon. We're not here to feed you lies. We're not here to feed you conspiracy. We're here to feed you hope and truth, and hope that you join us.
Yeah. How do you feel about closing the gaps between everybody that's on the side of progress? So say you as an anarchist, me as a SOCDEM, pretty far apart, but are you open to working with people that consider themselves socialists? Or is there do you think there's any value in delineating from the right? Because people on the right will they'll just work with people. They'll be yeah, you're a Proud Boy, fuck it, we'll work with you. Oh yeah, wait, you have a DV case, domestic violence case, but you don't like them trans folks, okay, we'll work with you. They're to the point where they don't even care. Gosh dang, I feel like there might be some value in that division, of course, in that that's, I don't want to say puritanism, But there might be value in just being a little bit more stratified, if that makes sense, in
Oh,
connections. But what are your thoughts as to close it out?
so one of my best friends is a communist, Luna Oi. So like obviously I'm willing to work with people who have similar but diametrically different end games. And I'm not opposed to working with like soc dems. I'm not opposed to working with people like that. But what I want is like people who are actually willing to canvas for progressives, who are actually willing. Because like if I hear like another liberal say, "Oh, we got Joe Biden," we're doing this. It's like,
That's the
no,
bandit, but you want the tourniquet.
yeah,
I want the
like,
robotic metal arm, honestly. Fuck it. It's gone. If it's gone, it's gone. Blow that shit off. I'm already bald with a beard. I want the full on. Who's the guy from Cowboy Bebop? Fuck. I want
oh,
whatever he has. Whatever he has, I want that shit right there.
there we go. Yeah, go like Jax from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking no, like, and like as Fackle says, yeah, it's like the main frustration that they have with the right wing ideas is that they are easy to spread because they aren't bound to ideals. We can't, obviously we can't do that. We have to be bound to our ideals or else we aren't leftists. We're fucking center right. But we don't have to be ideologically pure. We don't have to be the same. As an anarchist, I've talked with so many different people on my podcast. I've talked with, soc dems. I've talked with communists. I've talked with anarchists. I've talked with Green Party. My division with a lot of these people is that they're not willing to come over to my side and stand next to me. I would love to work with soc dems if they just put their, because like a lot of, I'm not.
Do you think that we are
but,
too standoffish or too what's the right word? Haughty? Are we too haughty?
A lot
like arrogant.
Kind of. A lot of soc dems are arrogant. I'm not saying all of you.
I try to work on that. I need to work on that a lot.
A lot of soc dems don't have humiliation. First off, they're just like, I'm right because I'm moral. And first off, morality is a whole other subject. Maybe we can have a discussion about that another time. But we need to be able to say, hey, we'll listen. We may not agree on the end goal, but right now we have to win this battle. And this battle is getting more people who actually have progressive left ideals into office. And I'm willing to vote for that. I'm willing to put on, a grumpy face and go to the polls if it means that the person I'm voting for might actually make some significant change. Because I'm tired of people listing, district judges and, infrastructure bills as huge accomplishments when that wasn't what we were promised from this current president. And we can say those are accomplishments. Don't get me wrong. But when we're promised codifying Roe versus Wade, when we're promised, like protections for trans people, when we're promised, elimination of student debt, and we're not getting those. Yes, I know there's whole bureaucratic red tape bullshit. But people either doomer pilled or they're going to turn to the right. We need to keep them center going left. And the way we do that is introducing them to actual ideals that matter. Actual ideals that will improve society versus just improve their own self-wealth. So, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I do agree. If we can, if we can vote blue no matter who, and we can move the Overton window even slightly over, then yeah. Mm-hmm. But we need to make sure that we're actually voting to someone who is slightly left, because if the trend with Cinema and Manchin keeps going, it's going to start moving even further right. So voting blue no matter who is going to end up being voting Republican versus Nazi. So let's fight for candidates that matter, and in the meantime, begrudgingly accept the ones we get.
Hell yeah. Yo, I think that might conclude the broad. Oh, wait a second, we gotta plug ourselves. Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yo, Trey, anything you want to say to plug yourself before I'm closing out the podcast?
Yeah, you can find most of my stuff on my channel, the Mayhem Calling, and I do a monthly podcast called the Mayhem Calling. Our guest in the chat, Frackle, I've had him on. I've had fellow panel guest Ronan Youngblood and fucking Dan Platt of the Three Left shows. I knew the name, I just couldn't speak for a second. And I also have a series called Mini Mayhem where I'm releasing a new episode this Thursday. I have some awesome guest voices on there, some channels that are pretty cool that you might know. It's on the historical usage of nonviolence versus violence in protests. Historical usage.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you can also follow me on Twitter at Trey Misanthrope if you want to see me make a fool of myself 90% of the time.
Oh, you're not nearly as bad as I am. I literally just called Multiversus Madness multiverse of like. What was that tweet I made? I said some sort of dumb Doctor Strange tweet. I just say weird, crazy, dumb shit on there. Hopefully no one takes me super seriously. But yeah, that is today's show. Thanks for joining us on this lustrous Friday evening in May, summertime evening and everything. All right, Frackle, thanks for coming on. Frackle, I didn't forget about you. We're gonna have an episode. We're gonna have an episode real soon. And yeah. Taj been John, Bars and Joysticks. It's been great having everybody here, and thank you, y'all. And yeah, have a good one. We rocking and rolling in the broadcast. And in the broadcast.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
See you, everybody. Whoop.